Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here, CEO and co-founder DLA Knight. With me today, I've got Diego Ramirez. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about sales methodologies. We're going to be talking about the sales methodology gap, what really drives sales methodology choice in the knowledge-intensive business services. I had to read that because I couldn't learn it off by heart. Diego, where can people find you?
Well, on LinkedIn, basically on LinkedIn. Yeah. Also Instagram, but yeah, I prefer LinkedIn.
Okay. Yeah. Just in terms of some context, you've just completed your MBA at Warwick Business School,
Right.
and this was part of your dissertation, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. Indeed, I have more than 10 years in work experience, mainly in sales, B2B sales. So yeah, one of my questions always was why the companies select determinate methodologies and not other methodologies. So that's the reason I decided to investigate about that.
Okay. So let's start with the core problem. You call this research the sales methodology gap. In simple terms, what is the gap you discovered between what sales leaders say they do and what actually happens in practice?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the idea was identify how the companies who sells high value and complex solution choose the sales methodology. So I analyze what the academia say and what in practice happens. So the things that I identified, three gaps, basically. The first one is about the value proposition. We find inconsistencies between what the value proposition is and what the firms mention. The second one is the way that they choose the methodology. Academia literature mention some criteria to select methodologies, but in the real life, looks completely different. And the other is the difference between what is a methodology and what is approach. No, it looks like easy to respond, but to be honest, even for me, at the very beginning of my investigation, was very hard to respond.
In my experience, I've been trained on 4 sales methodologies, and it was because of the sales leader had a particular view on it. That was usually the way. They didn't actually. None of them actually went out and looked and said which is the right one. It's always because that they'd been trained on it.
Yes.
You focused specifically on knowledge-intensive business services. I think you're calling that KIBS, aren't you?
Yeah.
Knowledge-intensive business services, or KIBS. What is it about KIBS, consulting, advisory, professional services? So we would call that professional services. What makes sales methodologies choice more complex than in SaaS or manufacturing?
Well, good question. Well, knowledge-intensive business services is a very academic term to refer to this consulting company, legal advisory, account company. So basically, they know, or they used to know, just knowledge, insight, and judgment. So, but in this industry, in this particular industry, the standards are, compared to others like SaaS or manufacturing, are brutally demanding. So first, you need to offer value since the first contact, and then you need to co-create value with your client during all the interaction. The second thing is they face long and complex sales cycle with multiple stakeholders. One of the key words here is the trust. You need to build the trust over the time.
Yeah.
Of course, the personalization or customization. No, it's not like a manufacturing that you sell a product. You offer a unique service.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that trust is so important. One of your strongest findings is in the absent client in value propositions. Why do many value propositions reflect what firms do rather than what clients need to decide? And why is this such a dangerous blind spot? Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting because
Yeah.
when I started my investigation, one of the questions was, who determine the value proposition in your firm? I interview directors, head of sales or the associate. So they say, well, in large firm and the middle firm, the response was the marketing team, the board team, the C level. In the case of the small company, the boutique firms, they say the owner. But it's funny because in academia, you find papers that mention that the client is who determine the value. So indeed, you need to translate this value, or the firms have to translate this value to their value proposition. So I think the main reason is this disconnection, because the second question I did was, when was the last time this person who is in charge of write the value proposition or create the value proposition visit the clients? Well, most of the response was, well, not often. No, basically exists this constant disconnection. For instance, if you work in a large firm, in global firm, probably you receive this value proposition from the headquarters in US, UK. It's very and it's hard to translate this value proposition to the client needs.
Yes, I can understand that. If you had a US or a UK based, and they said, "Here's the value proposition," and you were based in Peru,
Yes.
You've got a different language, business and culture may be done differently. Yeah, I can imagine it's.
You asked something that is why is dangerous a blind spot, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that probably is the symptom is the commoditization, right? Is I read recently a research. This research analyzed different web page of large firm, middle firms, and they discover, or they found, that 70% of the word that they use these firms to write the web page are the same.
Yeah.
80 or 90% basically offer the same.
Yeah.
So when you can differentiate, the only thing that used to differentiate is the relationships.
Absolutely. Everybody goes to market exactly the same way, and they all say the same thing, which is buy my product because we're great.
Yes.
And the buyer isn't sophisticated to understand the nuances of your unique selling point of those. So in fact, everybody looks exactly the same. And the only differentiator anybody has in the world today is who you are.
Yes.
It's the trust and the relationship of the sales teams.
Yeah, and that's the problem sometimes if you are a mid firm or a small firm. If you want to scale up, it's not sustainable. Use it, just relationship to scale up or grow.
Yes, for some people that is a problem. It's what we do as a job, but we're not here to talk about me.
Yeah.
You uncovered major conceptual confusion between sales approach, so the term sales approach, the term methodology, and the term process. Why do you think this confusion persists at senior leadership level, and what practical damage does it cause in real deals?
Yeah, I will say it's not only in senior leadership roles. I mean, this confusion exists even in the papers or even in the literature. I will explain. For instance, if you check some papers or some documents in the medicine field or academic field, you can realize that exists a difference between what is approach and what is methodology. But in sales, you use interchangeably. I mean, what is a sales a consultative approach or consultative methodology? So basically, exists a difference. Just to clarify, approach is the philosophy, is the way that you relate with your clients, how you build this connection, how you build this trust. The methodology is how. And in this case, you can use different ways to sell in different stage of your sales process. And of course, the process is just the pathway, from the lead generation to close the deal. So this is basically the difference. And what is the problem? I will tell you an example. I remember with one of my personal case. I remember one CEO said that I'm leading a commercial team at that moment, and this CEO mentioned something like, the only task that I ask you is hit the number, hit the number, hit the number. And this is the approach, to be honest, no, just hit the number. But when you have this broad definition of your sales approach, you allowed and behavior, not ethical behavior sometimes. So sometimes your sales team is just push, 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 and forget the client needs. So that's why it's relevant to define your approach. Your approach is the philosophy, and if you start for the approach, it's easier implement methodologies or teach methodologies.
So consultative selling dominates in theory and language, but not in purity. When leaders told you they were consultative selling, what were they actually doing day to day?
Wow. Yeah. Well, when I did these interviews, one of the questions was, okay, tell me about what methodology do you use? And as you mentioned, all of them say consultative, consultative, consultative. So I went deep and I re-asked and asked again about, okay, tell me about the elements. If I realized that some of these guys use other elements, for instance, SPIN methodologies or value-based selling. They start to talk about ROI. They start to, and this is different methodology, indeed. So if we are very strict and we go to the books, what academia say, consultative methodology have 7 stages or 7 phases. Okay, one of the key one, or the first one, is analyze the client maturity. And I realized that not all of them analyze this part. Indeed, they start with the relationship. They say, okay, I know this guy in this company, and then start with, okay, us and all of these things, but forget the first stage of this consultative method, that is asset the client maturity.
Okay. One of the most striking findings in that client maturity, so central in academic literature, was formally assessed by none of the firms. Why do you think such theoretical important factor is completely ignored in practice?
Well, probably this will be my second paper. Identify why happened that. But the thing is, like, I have a theories about that. But one is the culture. I mean, the KPI pressure, the pressure, or the pressure for hit the numbers. So no time for asset the client. Okay, you need to hit the number. So this is one of the probably the key problems, right? When a company defined as a sales-driven organization or client-centric organization, sometimes they forget, or they use KPIs that reinforce other behaviors, right? So my recommendation in this point is, before to jump to the pitch to your client, try to respond if this purchase is discretional or inevitable, and then try to find out if that is the first time that the buyer tried to buy this kind of solution, or they already have experience buying these solutions. So this is a very easy way to analyze the client maturity.
Instead, trust and relational access seem to drive decisions. How does this relational calculus differ from between SMEs, so small, medium enterprises, mid-sized firms, and large consultancies?
Okay, first of all, let me tell you that in all these scenarios, and large, mid, or boutique firms, looks like the methodology is secondary and trust is the first or the cornerstone, right? So in SMEs or boutique firms, the trust is more like the core of the strategy. Okay, it looks like I know this guy and I will sell. I will sell. Okay, in the mid firms, you see the transition. They know that they have to scale up, but it still persists the idea or the dependency to the owner relationship. So they know that they need to implement this systemic approach to create a sponsor. However, they still use the relationship-based model. And this is the tension. But in large firms, they have resources, very smart people inside of these firms, by the way. So they use more the trust as a competitive advantage. So they use trust as an enable to deploy the strategy, right? So I think sometimes that this is the reason why in this firm the headcount is so relevant. More people, more doors to knock.
Your research shows heavy use of hybrid and blended methodologies. I've seen this myself. In your view, is this a pragmatic adaptation, a strength, or a symptom of deeper strategic confusion?
Okay, depends on. I mean, if you are aware that you blend and you blend intentionally the different element, absolutely it's a strength. But if you are not aware about you are blend the methodologies, the problem is that you generate trivial knowledge. What happened with the trivial knowledge? You can systematize this knowledge. So what happened if I create this knowledge and someday I decide go to other firm? Well, I take away all this knowledge. So that's the problem when you blend without intention.
Okay, good. You propose the idea of a coherent flexibility with a 20% non-negotiable and 80% contextual freedom. For a sales leader listening to this, what might realistically sit in that 20%?
Okay. Well, in most of the cases, they already doing so. So the trick is define what your non-negotiable are. Beyond filling out the CRM or attending training session, during the sales process, you must define what things are truly essential. For example, you cannot make an offer without first meeting with the customer. Then as a salesperson, you can select or mix the different element of the method. So try when you talk about flexibility, always try to tie with a performance.
Right.
Flexibility without performance is a chaos. Flexibility with performance, this is strategic.
Because I've seen people try and mix things up, and they like me, I've learned 4 methodologies,
Yeah.
and you could say, well, you could pick a bit from there and pick a bit from there, even though they're pretty much the same. And I think it confuses people because if this is the methodology, we're going to learn this methodology, we're going to use the language. The pushback I then got was somebody would say, well, I only have 4 accounts.
Okay.
And somebody will say, well, I've got SMB, so I've got 10,000 accounts.
It's hard.
It's like, so what we need you to do is you need to do the methodology for, and then everybody uses their excuse. Well, I shouldn't use it because I've got 4 accounts, and I shouldn't use it because I'm on SMB.
Okay, I get it.
If you could leave sales leaders with one uncomfortable question, similar to the test that you give your interviews, what should they be asking themselves about their current sales methodology?
Yeah, just good question. By the way, was more than 20 questions. But one of the things, one just question probably is, what are the specific limitation of your current sales methodology? How are they affecting your results, both now or down the line? So start to talk about limitations. Not often we talk about limitation of we just work go on and go on and on. But if you make a pause, try to ask the limitation, always limitations. And try to put in different contexts. Okay, in what is the limitation of this methodology? And probably you don't have a methodology and you realize, okay, I don't have methodology, right? So yeah, the thing is always ask limitations. This is a critical thinking and it's relevant.
Excellent. Diego, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today about the sales methodology gap. What really drives sales methodology choice in knowledge-intensive business services. If we wanted to find you to get more information, where could we get?
LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, please.
LinkedIn.
I'm more than happy to receive all your questions, chat, share experience.
Excellent. Diego, thank you so much for coming on today, and good luck.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Bye-bye. Have a